My girlfriend and her parents mocked my humble background, so I spent 5 years building an empire to buy the company they relied on. Today, I fired her father and watched my ex realize she had traded a future billionaire for a front-row seat to her family's financial ruin. 5 years ago, I sat at a mahogany dining table that felt more like an interrogation room. My girlfriend's mother wouldn't even look me in the eye, instead directing her questions about lineage to the wallpaper behind me. My girlfriend sat silently, swirling an expensive vintage wine as her father laughed openly at my charming thrift store suit. He told me, with a smirk that still haunts my dreams, that a man of my stature should stick to dating within his own social class, perhaps someone whose parents also worked in factories. My girlfriend eventually leaned over and whispered that her family was right. I was just a placeholder until someone with a real pedigree arrived. She dumped me that night, via text, citing fundamental lifestyle differences. I didn't reply. I didn't beg. I just went to work. I spent the next half-decade fueled by a cold, quiet obsession. While my ex-girlfriend was busy posting photos of her high society galas and yacht trips with men her father approved of, I was building a logistics tech firm that was quietly taking over the market. I lived in a studio apartment that made my childhood home look like a palace, pouring every cent into a company that would eventually become a titan. I never forgot the way her mother had recoiled when my hand accidentally brushed hers while passing the salt, as if poverty were a contagious rash. The turning point came 6 months ago. I learned that my ex-girlfriend's father's textile empire was drowning in debt due to gross mismanagement and a refusal to modernize. He was desperate for a bailout. I didn't just buy his debt. I moved through a series of shell corporations to acquire the majority stake in the conglomerate that owned his entire supply chain. Yesterday was the Meet the New Owner board meeting. I walked into that familiar, wood-paneled boardroom wearing a bespoke suit that cost more than my ex-father-in-law to be's luxury sedan. When I took my seat at the head of the table, the man who once mocked my shoes turned a ghostly shade of gray. My ex was sitting in the corner, acting as his junior consultant. She looked at me, and for a second, I saw the exact moment she calculated the net worth of the man she had thrown away. It was a look of pure, pathetic hunger. I didn't offer a grand speech or a lecture on humility. I simply slid a folder across the table to my ex's father. It contained a severance agreement that wouldn't cover his country club fees for the quarter. I looked him in the eye the first time he'd ever truly seen me and told him his services were no longer required. As security escorted the broken man and his stunned daughter out of the building, she tried to linger, her mouth forming my name. I didn't even blink. I just turned to my chief of staff and asked to see the quarterly projections. My humble background was now the foundation of their ruin. Subscribe for more.